Brothers and sisters, I hope this finds you well. I'm going to be talking about the beasts of Revelation, how it all ties into the mark. And let me just say a quick word of prayer. Lord, please give understanding through the power of your Holy Spirit to every single person who will watch this video. And may they be a part of your kingdom. And may you use me in the way you see fit, to your glory, in Jesus' name, amen. The first entity we're going to talk about is the lamb-like beast. And we see this in Revelation chapter 13. So let me read that. This is from the New King James Version. It says, "Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and spoke like a dragon." This is very important to take note of. The fact that it has lamb-like horns. That means that it appears to be good. It appears to be gentle. It appears to be an entity that is out for the good of the people. But then it speaks like a dragon. So that contrast right there is very important for us to take note of. And okay, let's see the next thing. If you read the verse there, it says it comes up out of the earth. Let's go to 1 Samuel 28, 4:15. Let's see. Sorry, my computer's a bit slow. All right. So we have this account of Saul going to a medium. Now, if you remember, he had been instructed to essentially kill all the mediums and anyone who was engaging in spiritualism by the Lord, because it is something that he forbid. At least for the people of Israel, it was forbidden. But we see Saul here consulting a medium, so which means he hadn't killed all of them. There was still this one lady. So I'm going to start in verse 3. It says, "Now Samuel had died, and all Israel had lamented for him, and buried him in Ramah, in his own city. And Saul had put the mediums and the spiritists out of the land. Then the Philistines gathered together and came and encamped at Shunem. So Saul gathered all Israel together, and they encamped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the army of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. And when Saul inquired of the Lord did not answer him, either by dreams or by Urim or by the prophets. Then Saul said to his servants, 'Find me a woman who is a medium, that I may go to her and inquire of her.' And his servants said to him, 'In fact, there is a woman who is a medium at Endor.' So Saul disguised himself and put on the other clothes, and he went, and two men with him, and they came to the woman by night, and they said, 'Please conduct a séance for me, and bring up for me the one I shall name to you.' Then the woman said to him, 'Look, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off the mediums and the spiritists from the land. Why then do you lay a snare for my life, to cause me to die?' And Saul swore to her by the Lord, saying, 'As the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing.' Then the woman said, 'Whom shall I bring up for you?' And he said, 'Bring up Samuel for me.' When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice. And the woman spoke to Saul, saying, 'Why have you deceived me? For you are Saul.' And the king said to her, 'Do not be afraid. What did you see?' And the woman said to Saul, 'I saw a spirit ascending out of the earth.'" This is the part that we want to take note of, ascending out of the earth. So he said to her, "What is his form?" And she said, "An old man is coming up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel, and he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed down. Now Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" This is very, very important, brothers and sisters, because this woman from Endor, what she had engaged in was to bring up a deceased person. And this was a practice that was forbidden to the Israelites. It was something that they were totally forbidden from doing. In fact, let's see here, they're just different verses here. I have them here on the screen. Leviticus 19:31, "Give no regard to mediums and familiar spirits. Do not seek after them to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God." Leviticus 26, "And the person who turns to mediums and familiar spirits to prostitute himself with them, I will set my face against that person and cut him off from his people." So these are all so many different verses where God, he hates the practice of spirit contact. And the reason for that is because when you contact any spirits, you are engaging in demon contact. It's pretty much. Now, why is it that we're saying spirit contact is forbidden? It's because it is written that the dead know nothing. They are sleeping. They are not somewhere out there floating and you can talk to them and they can watch over you and all. This is very, very important to understand, because that is the heart of a demon contact is when people believe that their loved ones are out there watching over them. So this is the first important thing to note about this beast, without me going off track here. It ascends out of the earth. And then we read about Samuel being conjured. Essentially, he's dead, but the witch of Endor brings him up so that he can communicate with Saul. And that is the first important thing to know, because I want to show you the difference. Whenever something is said to come out of the earth, it's never from God. And you saw clearly in that in those texts about Samuel being conjured up by Saul. Now we read here in Mark 1 verse 10, and I'm showing you now the difference. When it comes from God, it comes from above. It comes down to us. When it's coming from the devil, it comes up. It comes up out of the earth. When it's coming from God, it's coming down. So it says, Mark 1 verse 10, it says, "And immediately coming up from the water, he saw the heavens parting and the Spirit descending upon him like a dove." I'm going to show you something else here. The computer is slow. Alright, so without taking too much time waiting for that, I'm going to show you the verses here on the screen so you can read along with me. I like to show you on the screen, so that you can see for yourself without having to actually read it and flipping through the pages one at a time. But my computer is not cooperating. If we go to Revelation 18:1, it says, "After these things I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was illuminated with his glory. So this is showing you once again anything coming from God, this message, this angel coming down from heaven. Now, just to make it clear that things from below, from beneath, they come from the devil. We're going to go to James 3, verse 14 to 17. It says, "But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, does not descend from God, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy." Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to show you one more verse, a couple more verses here. John 1:51, it says, "And he said to him, Most assuredly, I say to you, hereafter you shall see heaven open, and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." So, as I was searching for these verses, this came up. The Holy Spirit brought this to me, that yes, they were ascending and descending, but remember, things from God, they come from above. So they are coming down and going back up, coming down, going back up, coming down, going back up. Let's read one more instance of that here. Genesis 28, verse 12. This is when Jacob was dreaming. Then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to heaven. And there the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. So it's that they're actually descending and ascending, because they come from above. So they're descending and ascending. And so that's the first thing to note about this beast, is the nature of it, the heart of it. It literally came from that practice of mediumship or spirit contact. Now, before I disclose what the beast is, or let's look at this woman called. You'll be able to figure it out before I even tell you. So we've learned about this woman called Alice Bailey. You might have heard of her. She was a prolific author. She wrote many books about esoteric things, touching on a lot of things. She's considered one of the major pillars of the New Age movement. And of course, they were Lucifer worshippers. They worship Lucifer. And I will show you here. I'm going to read a quote, and I'm going to actually go to the page so that you see for yourself. It says, "The ancient myth of Lucifer refers to the angel who brought light to the world, and it is assumed that the name was applied to the publishing company." So this is the publishing company that publishes Alice Bailey books, in honor of a journal which had been edited for a number of years by Theosophical founder H.P. Blavatsky, so Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. It soon became clear to the Baileys that some Christian groups have traditionally mistakenly identified Lucifer with Satan. And for this reason, the company's name was changed in 1924 to Lucis Publishing Company. So this is from the Lucis Trust. The Lucis Trust is the company. It used to be called Lucifer Publishing Company, but the name was changed to Lucis Publishing Company, and then Lucis Trust is part of Lucis Trust. And of course, the name was changed probably because it became too obvious, that they were working for Lucifer, or the devil. But let's see here the kind of profile that Lucis Trust has. They have consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. So this is an organization that publishes books that are Luciferian, really, essentially. And they work with the UN. So they have consultative status with the United Nations and World Goodwill, which is another organization that she founded, is recognized by the Department of Public Information at the United Nations as a non-governmental organization. As such, the Trust and World Goodwill are part of a community of many hundreds of NGOs that play an active role in the United Nations. So they are very high-profile organizations within, they're working with the United Nations. You can say they're part of an ecosystem of organizations because the United Nations doesn't work on its own. It's like an ecosystem of NGOs, and they're all working, with the same mindset, the same goals. They're pushing for the same things. And if you see here where underline says particularly in spreading information about the UN and fostering support for UN programs. Since their inception, Lucis Trust and World Goodwill have given their support through meditation. This is another form of spirit contact. Educational materials and seminars by highlighting the importance of the UN's goals and activities as they represent the voice of the peoples and nations of the world. So by now you figured out that this organization is the United Nations, which I'm talking about, which is the lamb-like beast. It's formed with the intention of being an organization that looks out for the good of the world's population. There's not enough water. They're supposed to be the ones to try to, okay, let's come up with a solution for that. Let's come up with a solution for all different problems that humanity is facing. But anyway, let's keep reading here. Another quote from Lucis Trust. Okay. The goal of World Goodwill is to foster a universal spiritual perspective on the future, centered on the idea that all faiths throughout history have anticipated an age of peace and justice, ushered in by a world teacher who embodies divine principles. The rising tide of goodwill in the world today is a sign that the appearance of such a teacher, expected by different traditions under such names as the Christ, the Christ, the Kalki Avatar, the Bodhisattva, Lord Maitreya, the Imam Mahdi, and the Messiah, is now imminent. Okay, so these are organizations that are working in lockstep with the United Nations. Okay. Lucis Trust, a publishing company that publishes Luciferian books. And by the way, I didn't touch on how Alice Bailey, because we're talking about this beast, it comes up out of the earth. So she got her teachings from an entity, a spirit entity called the Tibetan or Jwal Kul. So essentially she channeled. She literally was just a vessel to receive the teachings through this spirit called the Tibetan. And so you're seeing that literally the United Nations came out of this practice of spirit contact. It comes up out of the earth, just like how Samuel was conjured up by the witch of Endor at Saul's request. That coming up out of the earth, it's not coming from God. It's, even though it is lamb-like, even though it appears to be an organization that looks out for the people, the agenda, there's an agenda there, and if it is born out of spirit contact, the spirits that are being mentioned here are not from God, they're from the devil. So the agenda is the devil's agenda. So let's read here. The United Nations, there's a quote here by Alice Bailey on the United Nations. It says, "The vision in men's minds today is that of the Aquarian age, the new age, age of Aquarius. Even if they recognize it not, the future will see right relationships, true communion, a sharing of all things, wine, the blood, the life and bread, economic satisfaction." It was very interesting because Bailey, she grew up a Christian, so she had a very good understanding of Christian terminology and how the words are used, but she uses it in an inverted sense when she's talking about this new age. She's talking about goodwill. When you think goodwill, you think, oh, doing good, but it has a different meaning to them. We have also a picture of the future of humanity when all nations are united. See, this is the ultimate goal of the United Nations. Every nation on the earth, they come under one umbrella, in complete understanding and the diversity of languages, symbolic of differing traditions, cultures, civilizations, and points of view, will provide no barrier to right human relations. At the center of each of these pictures is to be found the Christ. See, I put small letter C there. This is not Jesus Christ they're talking about. Like I said, she uses words and terminologies that if you read on the surface, you might not see it, but of course, this is not Jesus Christ that she's talking about. Thus, the expressed aims and efforts of the United Nations will be eventually brought to fruition, and a new church of God, small g, gathered out of all religions and spiritual groups, will unitedly bring to an end the great heresy of separateness. Now, they want people to get along. They want people to coexist. They want people to they don't want there to be any separateness. But the separateness here, I'm talking about ideology. So for example, Christian belief, just the teaching of Christ calls you to be apart. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Do not touch any unclean thing. Set yourself apart from what is happening in the world, or the sin. And in fact, let me pull some verses up here so that for those who might be new to being Christians, that you'll see verses here that will help. Let me just read from my Bible because the computer is not cooperating here. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, let's see if it will cooperate. this screen recording software I'm using, it slows the computer down. It's not a very fast computer. But let me just look it up here on the side, and I will. I want to show you how Christianity, in the very nature of Christianity, makes it it appears to be divisive, because it sets you at odds with those around you. Let's read from Matthew chapter 10. So I'm going to look up 34 here. So I'm going to read from verse 32, Matthew chapter 10. It says, "Whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father, which is in heaven. But whosoever shall deny me before men, him will I also deny before my Father, which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it." So this was Matthew 10 from 32 to 39. So you're seeing here that the very nature of being a Christian, it can cause division, even in a household, within families. And that is not the intention of it, of course, is to cause division, but it is so the nature of being a Christian, to follow Jesus, it will put you at odds with those who are not walking with Christ. And so that's how the division, that's how the friction will come about. And their goal is to have everyone come together. And then they call it a heresy of separateness, because who are the only people in the world that are not going to go with this this coming together? It's the true believers, the people who will see through that and see that, you know what, how do we come together and worship together? Different religions, people who worship other gods and idols and all, and worship God the Father at the same time. How does that come together? It doesn't. You have to have one or the other. You cannot have both. And I'm going to show you another verse here. I'm going to read, let's see. Sorry, my computer is slow, so I'm being forced to just read the Bible on the side here. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to go to 2 Corinthians chapter 6, starting in verse 14. It says, "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believes with an infidel?" So an infidel is an unbeliever. And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God, as God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. And I will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. So the first beast, no, sorry, not the first beast, the lamb-like beast, which is the second beast, the beast that comes up out of the earth, is the United Nations. It is, and when I say the United Nations, I'm talking about that whole that ecosystem of NGOs that are working, that are moving the world towards uniting the world, towards having a one world religion. That is the other goal. The world to come together, it involves the religions also coming together. It involves the economy coming together. So you see how this is all leading to the mark of the beast. But the entity is the United Nations, and that whole body of NGOs. And I'll show you how they're working, how they're going to be speaking like a dragon. Right now, they are not speaking yet as a dragon. They're still, they still have that lamb-like appearance to them. But we will see shortly here, very, very soon, maybe even, this year before it ends, how they're going to start speaking like a dragon. Actually, in fact, I heard recently that they are trying to start censoring more. They're pushing for censorship online, and I think I'll talk about that soon. And see that's how they start to speak like a dragon. But there's a lot more to how they're working, and I will show. I'll show you how that is. So thank you, brothers and sisters. I'm gonna make a video again very soon here, and just keep building. We're gonna talk about the first beast and the image of the beast, how all this leads to the mark, and then the mark itself. But it's gonna be a whole series, and we're gonna be talking about all these things. So please follow, subscribe to the channel, like the video. It helps the video to come up in the rankings. And also, you can comment. You feel free to leave a comment, and share with your friends. Share with your friends. If this has been eye-opening to you, please share it with those that you know that are seeking for the truth. And also keep me in prayer that I will continue to be able to share. I know that we have a very limited window. I've always felt it that this year, maybe before the year ends, we might not be able to share some of these things anymore. So time is not on our side, so we have to get the word out. And also, there's I'm writing a book on all this, so you can pre-order it because it's about to be published here. But the link is in the description. And also, there's a book that I wrote called No Mark, No Service: How to Prepare for and Avoid the Mark of the Beast. And that talks more about the spiritual side of it, the marking process. But I'll make videos on that as well, and that is already available, so you can get that. But please subscribe, like the video, share it, and God willing, we'll have a video for you again here tomorrow. I'm going to try to make several videos here in a short time because, like I said, there's no time. Thank you, brothers and sisters. God bless, and have a good